is the summer of 1925. It's June. It's the roaring 20s. Everybody's getting rich off the stock market. Everybody's prosperous. Everything is good in the world. Oh, if you would like to use one of those as a prop for your little pistol, you may. Okay, that is up to you. And it's just, if you decide you want to hold it in your hand when your character has her gun, you can. You don't have to. It's just something to help make things even more fun. You two. John and I have been trying to figure out how you would even know each other.
What?
He thought that you might have met his brother, who did go to college.
Been a little more fortunate after the war. He
looks nothing like you, right?
Roll 3d6. Let's see what your brother looks like.
Let's actually take a look at that. Just to see.
His brother in real life looks nothing like him.
He's
Wow.
5. So
he's less attractive than this guy. So you probably didn't date him, although that's your call.
Maybe you work with him though, and you're just like, oh, that guy.
So you've probably met John McKeefe
Okay.
at some point. Maybe, what's your brother's name?
Neil.
Neil McKeefe. So Neil might have actually even asked you out on a date.
And you were like, hell no.
Well, maybe, but you know, she might. It's up to her. She might have decided, well,
You might have
I got
been,
nothing to lose. I can get a
You might
free
have
deal.
taken pity on him.
Might have, yeah. He's not a bad guy. He was in the war. His, let's say that you said you rolled a 5. Okay, before the war,
He was a 14.
he was no, this is a 1. So he was a 9, which is not too bad. And then he probably got some pretty badly hurt during the war.
He might have lost a bit of his face.
Yeah, a little bit of his face. And maybe you felt sorry for him, so you went and you met him someplace relatively public, and his brother ran into you guys.
He took a crowbar.
And so that's how he what?
He took a crowbar to the face, which is what happened to John's real life.
Yeah, my actual.
What?
Well, like he's in an
Afghanistan.
engineering car. He bumped his face with a crowbar. He got a bruise, but.
Okay, but not like snap the
No,
nose.
it didn't like
pressed
destroy.
close.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've met. You know each other. You both live in Providence, Rhode Island. Good-sized city. Let's see. The population of Providence is 235,000 people. So it's a big city, and you kind of know each other. It's just an acquaintanceship, though. But there's a couple things about Call of Cthulhu. Your character has to be somebody, and you have to just kind of make him this way on your own, who wants to investigate these weird, strange happenings. Because at any point in the game, you could say, "Done. I'm going home," and your character goes home and never has to deal with this again. So you have to self-motivate yourself to say, "This is weird. We need to find out what's going on," and you can figure out whatever justification you want for that. The other thing is knowing you can use a little bit of player knowledge as far as I'm probably going to use you as the lead in for this because your character seems to fit more with the story with somebody who would be contacted. As opposed to the burglar over here, who's like the older burglar. How old is your character? She's in her 30s too. So you're 33 too?
I was 28.
28, okay.
So I'm actually younger than you.
Okay, is your character married? That's
No.
very important. Okay, 33 is pretty old not to be married in the 20s, so she might consider herself an old maid, or maybe not. That's entirely up to you.
I take my work too seriously.
Could be. Maybe you're married to your work, and that's why you haven't ever found a husband. Because oh my gosh, that's all there is. You have to. You're not married yet. So you can use a little bit of your own character, of player knowledge, to say, I'm going to contact him for whatever reason. But we're going to start with you, and you're at home. You've had a busy week, but you managed to finish early. It's Friday afternoon. It's actually June 26th, 1925. It's pretty warm, been a warm summer. Your apartment is very hot. You've got one fan that blows. When your telephone rings, I mean, your character's wealthy enough that you have a telephone. Ring, 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 ring.
Right.
What do you do?
Well, I picked it up.
Okay, you pick up the phone, you hold it up to your ear. It's one of those old, it's a candlestick phone.
Okay.
And it's a woman's voice, and she says, may I speak to Mary Jane Holland?
And I say, yes, this is she.
Oh, Mary Jane, I don't know if you remember me. This is Diane Timmons. I'm Brian Timmons' mother. Now you remember Brian Timmons. He's younger than you. He's only in his mid-20s. But he was a nice fellow. Was at college. You met him when you were researching something, and he seemed like a nice fellow. And he asked you out on a couple dates. You went out and with him, and there was no real spark for you, so nothing really came of it. But he was a nice boy from a relatively wealthy family, and this was a couple years ago that you went out with him. But you met his parents; they seemed really nice, and his mother seemed to be convinced that you guys were going to get married. She really liked you. She took a real shine to you, and she was like, "Oh my goodness, we should be making plans." Blah blah blah. And then it just kind of didn't work out between the two of you. You haven't seen him in a couple of years. She says, "Brian has gone insane. I've had to have him committed." He's at yeah. You can say anything you want. He is at Home Sanitarium. He's been growing increasingly moody and withdrawn since you last saw him, and he eventually moved out of the family home. But could you please come and visit Brian in the hospital? I think it would do him a world of good.
I don't know if I really feel comfortable in that.
Well, could you come by the house? Could I talk to you about it at least, please?
I'll come by your house, yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Okay, could you come by this afternoon or this evening?
Sure. I'll find time.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mary.
You're welcome.
Goodbye.
So long.
Click, and you hang up. Okay, so, kind of a bolt from the blue. What do you want to do?
Well, I told her I would come over, so I probably should come over, but I don't really feel comfortable going to see this insane ex-boyfriend of mine.
That's fine.
But you do remember about this kind of weird guy that one of your fellow researchers said was his brother.
Actually, you live in her apartment building.
Ah, wonderful, even better.
So you run into each other on a daily basis since you dated his brother a year ago.
You steal my mail.
I don't steal your mail. I've found it around.
Or you steal my newspaper.
I find it. I do eventually.
That could work. Is that okay with you? Because she can tell you what your character does. But so a lot of mornings he'll have your newspaper. You'll come downstairs to go to work. He never seems to work. Because remember, you don't know what he does probably. What do you tell people you do?
Well, I tell people that I kind of stay away from really talking about work that much, but I tell people that I'm kind of interested in examining antiques and relics. And I can't really say that I'm much of an antique dealer, but I can say
appraiser? You kind of give the impression that you're an appraiser?
I could be an appraiser, and I'm kind of interested in some. I've kind of shown some interest in some of the, let's just say, high profile or valuable things that I've seen in some of the anthropological department.
So, well, you probably don't get over to the college very often.
But I did drop by once or twice, and it looked very.
Okay. So you kind of give the impression to anybody you know that you're an appraiser, that you are self-employed, I guess. And how do you dress normally when you're like not on the job of burglary?
Kind of a okay outfit, or at least it's kind of like, I guess, kind of a tweedish, woolish suit. Yeah. And
just a tie. You wear a bow tie, regular tie.
Regular tie.
Okay, just a regular tie and a nice hat. Okay. Okay. That works. You actually live in the basement of the apartment. It's in one of the basement apartments. They're cheaper, and there's a way that you can and you can actually get out of your apartment, like out of one of the back window, out of one of the windows without being seen very easily.
But it does leak a little sometimes.
You look what?
It leaks a little sometimes.
What does?
The apartment.
Oh, it leaks?
I've got some drips.
Oh, okay. Because you're in the basement. Yeah.
It's some pipes.
So yeah, he's probably the person you know best in the building, because when you come down, you find him some morning standing in the hallway reading the paper, and he's like, "Oh, I think this is yours," and then he gives it to you.
Or I'm like, "Oh, hey, did you hear that story about blank, blank, blank?" And you're like, "That's my newspaper."
Yeah, I take it.
Yes, that's how eventually you get. But he seems to be friendly and nice, and he's never been That's the worst he's ever
Playful
done.
banter.
Yeah, playful banter.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can know each other that way. I like that. That works really well. Unless he's been following you.
Oh God.
No. He lived in the apartment when you moved in.
Okay.
So it was just a weird coincidence that you ended up meeting him through his brother. So so you're gonna go down to his apartment?
To tell him what's going on,
Mhm,
that
yeah,
this
or
guy's
anything you wanna do.
crazy. Yeah, I guess so.
Okay.
We go down
You
there.
don't have a phone.
Mm.
Telephones are relatively expensive. So.
Yeah, I don't have.
And you don't
enough
really
money,
need
but
one.
yeah, it's like.
And there's payphones all over the place. So
No
you
problem.
go down, you knock on his door.
Um,
You're probably sleeping, aren't you, during the day?
Sometimes, yes.
Okay.
I'm
Give me a
kind
luck check to see if you're asleep. Now, your luck is on the top of the character sheet on the right. See
Okay.
luck?
70.
70.
So I need to roll below 70.
70 or below. If you make it.
So I roll
Okay,
a
so
41.
you're awake. You've had your you
I've had some
slept
coffee.
most of the morning.
It was
It's
kinda
afternoon.
stale.
Yes, you slept most of the day. You got up. You had some idea to go. Maybe scout out some potential clients tonight. And so you've had your morning toilet. You've showered, or you're taking your bath and everything.
Okay,
And then you hear
the
tap tap
newspaper.
tap tap tap.
Yeah, and it's me.
I put down the newspaper and
Okay.
kind of walk over the door, look through the little peephole, and I'm like,
There's no people,
okay.
but
So
there's a chain,
Mhm.
so you can open it and still have some safety.
In that case, I stand a little to the side of the door and shout,
Okay.
"Who is it?"
Okay.
And I say, it's me, the person you steal the newspaper from every morning. Please let me in.
I go ahead and unlock and unchain the door and be
Okay.
like, "Oh, hi, how are you? Come on in."
Right.
Okay.
And
All happily.
so
You step in. His apartment looks like what? Is it clean? Is it messy?
Well, it's relatively clean, but it has this kind of stale odor, just kind of from
Basement odor? Kind of
Yeah.
basement smell?
And
That's why these
there
are
might be-
cheaper
There might be
apartments.
a little teeny bit of mold.
It's
somewhere.
cooler down here though. It's a lot cooler than it is in your apartment upstairs in June.
But kind of feels a little damp to you all around.
And it's
But-
probably small. You've probably got a kitchenette on one side and a living area and then a small separate bathroom. And you've probably got one of the, I can't remember what they're called, the beds that fold up into the wall.
Oh,
Murphy
yeah.
bed.
Murphy bed, thank you.
Yeah.
So you've got a Murphy bed, which is probably up right now.
And
But the apartment's clean then, other than that?
yeah, and also you might happen to notice there's a newspaper on the coffee table.
Yes.
And a flicker of movement out of the corner of my eye. Is it a mouse? Probably. Does it live in the basement?
Maybe.
Could be nice.
Oh.
Anyway, so he's opened the door and ushered you in. He closes the door behind you.
Right. And I say, I have to go to my ex-boyfriend's mother's house
Sorry.
to discuss his insanity. And I want you to pose as my current boyfriend so she won't try to get us back together.
My ears perk up a little bit as I'm like, maybe I could happen to become her real boyfriend at some point.
Oh, you're thinking this?
Yes.
Okay.
That's what
And
you're
also-
thinking, of course.
And also thinking, I wonder if this person has anything that isn't nailed down.
So he gets this kind of faraway look in his eyes and this weird little grin on his face. Like, oh. And do you say anything to her, or do you just stand there
I'm
thinking?
just like, come back to life already.
I look off into the distance for a second, and I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. I guess that I was just thinking back to the days over in Europe.
So I make it clear that we're obviously not going to be together, but I would like you to accompany me to this person's house. Is that okay?
Wow, that's awesome.
I lose a bit of my smile, but the glimmer still stays in my eyes as I go ahead and say, sure, why
Okay.
not?
Okay.
So, are you gonna head over there right now, or what's the call?
I mean, how early is it in the day?
It's probably out like 4 in the afternoon.
Okay, yeah. Then I think we'd head over there.
Okay.
Using
So
my
like,
car.
where is
Okay.
this place?
Yeah, you're walking out of the apartment as he asked you this,
Mhm.
out of the apartment building. Your car's parked out front.
Mhm.
You get in. There's no keys. There's no locks on the doors, anything like that. Back in the day, they didn't have any of that stuff. It's still like, did you want to blow some extra money for an electric starter?
Sure.
Okay. So it's a button that you push that'll start the car. Don't worry
Okay.
about the actual cash.
All
but
right.
Otherwise, you have to use a crank.
Yeah.
And you can see it. This is attached on. It's obviously something additional to the vehicle. And you get the car started, and you start heading over in that side of town.
Oh, this is a nice car.
Yeah, it's brand new. It's a 25, so it was out this year. You two drive across town. Is there any conversation you want to have on the way?
Maybe I could ask about how her research has been going lately.
Okay.
Any neat finds?
Sure.
Some small talk attempted on one part and blown off on the other. That's fine. The house that she pulls up in front of is very nice. Upper middle class, probably 2 stories tall. Just very nice house in a very nice part of Providence. These are the kind of people that you like to have business with. She gets out of the car, closes the door. I'm assuming you're a pretty independent woman as far as that goes.
Yeah.
Okay. You guys get out of the car, go up to the front door, and do you knock?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Tap, 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 tap. Or
Yeah,
there's a knocker on this door.
I'm just kind of standing and kind of looking around the nice sun and at the neighborhood.
Yes, actually, this is a mansion.
Oh wow.
So this is actually the upper class neighborhood. Large mansions, good sized, good big lawns, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
the door is opened by this gentleman. He's wearing a suit and a tie. And you recognize him. This is their butler. This is Jarvis. He says, Miss Holland.
Yeah.
Ah, Miss Holland. Mrs. Timmons is expecting you. And then he opens the door further and ushers the two of you in. He takes you to a living room and he offers you seats.
Right.
And he says, Mrs. Timmons will be arriving shortly. And then he leaves the room. There's quite a few nice little expensive gewgaws and knickknacks around this room. You see a telephone on a stand in one side. There's a nice big fireplace. Nice comfortable furniture. You remember this place. The place smells good. Windows are wide open. There's a nice breeze coming in. Mrs. Timmons appears almost immediately. It's less than a minute later. Here's her. Here she is. There's Diane Timmons. She's an older lady, not unattractive. Welcomes you warmly, walks over towards you, and I'm seeing you stand back up, and she gives you a little, kind of almost a hug, and kind of pats your cheek, cheek against cheek kind of thing, and asks if would you and your friend like some tea?
Sure, I would like some.
Jarvis, tea, please, for 3. And you see Jarvis was in the doorway, and he disappears.
Right.
There's some formalities, and there's some small talk to start off with. Jarvis brings in the tea, pours it for everybody. There's cream and sugar. Everybody gets a cup of tea, and she finally starts to talk about Brian Timmons, who is her son.
Right.
Oh, here's him. That's what he looks like, by the way. Caitlin's like, oh, not bad. I didn't do too bad for myself. She says, Brian became interested in tracing the family tree. He spent many hours searching libraries, old public records for clues to the more obscure branches of the family, and he became more and more obsessed with his research until a year ago he purchased an old farmhouse up in Woonsocket, Rhode Island. And despite the protests from both myself and Mr. Timmons moved in, we began seeing less and less of Brian. And it was at this time that he began his brief association with a Mr. Baines. We met him once, but his black clothing and dark glasses left an impression that could not be forgotten. He apparently lived with Brian for a short time before suddenly leaving for Europe, and it was about this time that Brian started to show signs of a personality change, and we began to seriously question his sanity. We heard nothing from him over this past winter. And in May, Mr. Timmons, Jarvis drove him up to Woonsocket to visit with Brian in an attempt to get him to return home. They returned that night, and though I questioned him, Mr. Timmons he declined to say anything about his son. It was hardly 3 weeks later that he fell to his death from the second-story balcony of the house here. Brian did not attend the funeral,
Right.
And you know that Mr. Timmons, when you met him 2 years ago, he was a semi-invalid. He'd had a heart attack and he had a lot of trouble moving around. Brian didn't attend the funeral, and in June he experienced some trouble with the police in connection with what I do not know. You guys can each make me a psychology roll.
Oh, okay.
So you want to use these 2 dice. Okay. These are the 10s and these are the 1s. And you want to try to roll under psychology, which is 25%. So go ahead and roll. So you read these as the 10s, and you read this one as the 1s.
Okay, so 98.
98.
I got 96.
And since that's over 25, that's you got a 96. Okay, so psychology is used to pick up on some stuff from people occasionally. So you guys don't notice anything out of the ordinary when she's talking about this.
Okay.
Shortly after that, after the trouble with the police, I had him served with papers to have him legally committed to the hospital. When the police arrived at the farmhouse in Woonsocket to take him into custody, he exploded in a violent outburst and had to be restrained. He's presently in home sanitarium here in Providence, and while usually coherent, he's prone to sudden violent outbursts, and his doctors say that he's not responding to treatment. For some reason, they do not want to treat him anymore, and they've suggested that he be placed in a more permanent home where he can be cared for professionally. But I've not given up hope for my son, and could you please go and visit him and talk to him and just see if there's anything that might be able that could be done. She seems very upset. There's tears just brimming on her in her eyes, and
we'll go. As long as I can have my friend with me.
Thank you so much. Well, of course. I'll telephone the sanitarium and I'll let them know that you're coming. Okay. And she thanks you profusely, and she said if there's anything you'd find out about what has happened to him, from him or in any way you can. I'm sorry, I'm so rude. I'm sorry, I'm Diane Timmons. And she holds her hand out.
You say your name.
John McKeefe.
That's what you just said. It's nice to meet you, Mr. McKeefe. It's I'm so sorry. Mary and Brian, they stepped out for a very short time, and I was always very fond of her. And I think that you might be a woman that he saw before he started this research and started down this road to insanity, and that's why I called you. I hate to impose. I'm so terribly sorry.
No, it's fine. I'll go and talk to him.
Thank you so much. Thanks so much, dear. Okay. And and she pulls out a set of keys, and she gives those to you too, and she says, "Those are for the farm in Woonsocket. If you can't find anything from him, maybe you could look there and see if there's any clue as to what happened to him.
I see.
Something must have happened up there. Something must have happened."
Well, we'll investigate if it makes you feel better.
It would. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And then you there's some more small talk. You all finish your tea and bid her adieu. And it's probably close to 5 o'clock. It's a little after 5 o'clock. It's getting close to dinner time by the time that Jarvis sees you out. And he also thanks you so much for helping before you go. And then back to the car. And you know where home sanitarium is. You have an idea about where it is.
Okay.
And so you'd be able to get up there this afternoon if you wanted to.
Okay.
But that's entirely up to you.
Yeah.
Here, I'm gonna